About 2 months ago, I sat down to do some digital art, and I pulled out my Samsung Galaxy Note 2014, from back when 2014 was the future. It has an active stylus, which means you can draw on the screen with touch sensitivity, and it rejects the palm and all that good stuff. But I thought to myself, why do I use a tablet for digital art? Because after all, my main computing device is a laptop. It's the Lenovo Yoga, and it also has a screen with an active digitizer, and you can draw on the surface and it will reject your palm and all that good stuff. Therefore, the only reason why I prefer doing digital art on my tablet as opposed to my laptop is one of software rather than one of hardware. And indeed, although programs like GIMP and Krita are great, their UIs tend to be mouse and keyboard driven rather than touch driven. This sent me on a spiral of thought about, well, could I try and replicate some of this Android touch-based stuff and make an app for my laptop for doing digital art? So, let me introduce you to Sverg, which is an experimental hybrid vector, raster, don't really know what, graphics drawing program. So the bottom slider is the opacity, top slider is the size. Click here, you can pick a colour, and now you can draw on the screen. Ta-da! And you can rotate the canvas, and you can do bigger, semi-transparent things, whatever. All feeling normal looking for a drawing program, but underneath the hood, it's quite interesting actually. When I was thinking about making my own drawing program, I also thought about my experience in game development, and in particular particle systems. This is the Godot game engine. We have a particle system that's emitting 1 particle every second, and there's currently 10 particles for a lifetime of 10 seconds. You can easily push this up. Now we've got 100 particles. Now we've got 1,000 particles. You see they're overlapping nicely. And here we have 10,000 particles that are now coming out and will be there by the time it's finished emitting them after 10 seconds. And I thought, what if these weren't the Godot icon being drawn on the screen? What if this was the texture from a brush? Could I, instead of storing a bunch of pixels as an image, could I instead store the stroke that the user had done and at render time apply the texture of the brush? Another important realization I had was around the use of layers. Layers allow you to edit parts of an image selectively. So for example, here in this drawing, I would have drawn the sketch first, and I probably put down some underlying color, maybe put in a shadow or some texture before finally kind of coloring it in, put a tree on the top. These layers are simply a view into a dependency graph. You have a blank underlying canvas, you do a bunch of strokes, which puts it outputs an image, and then you do a bunch of compositing to put them on top of each other. So here's the Sverg logo, and on the right is the dependency graph. So you can see we start out with a background, and then the strokes layer on top of each other before finally they composite on top of another currently blank layer, and finally output to the screen. Realizing that it was a dependency graph means that you can go from strokes that happen and layers that happen at other times into an order of operations. You can say this needs to happen, then this needs to happen, then the third thing needs to happen. You can also say, well, these are places which we should cache between rendering in order to optimize performance. So when will you be able to use Sverg? Well, in the future maybe. Currently performance is a little bit poor. You can get maybe 20 or 30 strokes on my laptop before it starts lagging. That should be fixed once I implement some caching, but it's a long way to go from here to a fully functional program. Thanks for listening. Bye.